Okay, first problem. Nothing like a sharp drill. Right, first part of the extraction is to drill the pilot hole. Doesn't work. Now this is an interesting thing. This wire was cut off. And the important bit about this wire is that it travels through here, and I used this to start the bike. Okay, it's all unraveling. So this is how I label up what was on the bike, so I can go back when I'm doing the loom and I'm able to discern what these were for the time I pulled them off. It's really important to document every single thing. You cannot take enough pictures of this. So that goes into the electrics box, and we continue to unravel this. You can see there a color scheme here. But the years of crud and sitting around doesn't help these things. Finally disconnected all the points, taken photographs of everything. There's nothing connected. Everything I know goes where. This is the main loom. This is the main heart of the bike. It's very, very important to take your time. I can't stress it enough, because I can promise you, a few months go by and you come to do this and you wish you had just taken that extra picture. Make sure they're in focus, make sure you can see them, blah, blah, blah. This is the main ignition loom with the keys. We're going to have a little bit of detective work to discover exactly where all this stuff goes, but I'm confident that I can do it. So we've got to clean them all, check for continuity, look for any rubs, any abrasions. Got to get rid of the duct tape that's on here, which is obviously it served a purpose at the time, and now we're going to get it back to sparkly black. Back to black. Onto your pile you go. So with the loom off now, that leaves me with maybe just some of the switch gear I've got to take off. This one seems quite tricky the way they've done this, but we'll find out, I'm sure. That's going to come off. Most of the electrics are off now. We'll take these fuse boxes off. We just want to get the bare frame. We want to find how to get this engine, these bolts off. Then I can take the engine out. We can start to see where the leaks are from. We can take the heads off, let's do the valves, get them up to spec, check for any bore scoring, any wear, because they are down on compression by quite a bit, about half what they should be. The transmission, I must say, I'm very happy with this. This seems fine, no play. And then we get to strip the frame off, get it down to bare metal again, start spraying them up, and then start the assembly process. I'm going to check these bearings are. Okay, all this has got to come off. We've got to see what we've got here. Clean up the serial number, get that all tidied up. So still a lot of work to do, but I'm glad to be at this point of the bike. I didn't expect to come this far so soon. So what I've got here is an original. There we go. my goodness. So tight, so tight. When you heat these up, don't heat this, right? This will expand, just make it tighter. You've got to heat this around. And don't be shy, get it really hot. Put on for about 3, 4, 5 minutes. Just working around the outside. And that'll increase in size and you should be able to knock it out. One indispensable tool I have here, which just about anybody should get when they're doing this type of work, is one of these impact hammer. You can see how I've knackered that's going to have to be replaced. It's just the amount of force that I had to apply. And what it does is you smack it on the back and it literally, like a jackhammer, just disturbs whatever grip the item's got, and then you're able to remove it. So yeah, that's a big relief, because if I couldn't take that out, then I couldn't take the engine out to do the chassis, and that would have been a disaster. Oh boy, there's a lot of play in this. I'm gonna have to replace this. So that's got to be circled out, pulled out. Tight. Let's try a larger hammer. Luckily that just popped out. So yeah, I'll just pop that back on because I'm going home now and I'll be with a fresh start on the engine tomorrow. Okay, number 10. Hold it steady as you put it out. It's got a spring in it with a copper or brass washer. Slide that in, and there's the assembly. So you want to mark these because the wear on them are unique for each. What we got here. It's not too bad. A little bit of carbon build-up there, but not too bad. Next we'll do some checks for bore scoring, but in the meantime I'm going to just vacuum all this up. Right, let's see what the right side cylinder looks like. Well, it doesn't look too bad. That's really good. They look really nice. This side looks cleaner than the other side, which is why this one has a better compression than that one. So I'm assuming there's a valve leak on the left side bank. Here's a composer which I've not heard before, Orber. And I spotted his name up on the front of the Paris Opera House. And I thought, well, it's next to Beethoven and Mozart and Bach. And then there was this Orber, so yeah, I quite like it. This is good because it gives me the chance to really look at the clutch, which is in here. Let's check the thrust bearings. Thrust bearing there. Just want to show myself where that fits. That goes in there, and that's the end of the push rod. This push rod goes in these slots, which is then inserted in here once the gearbox is back in position. And get this gearbox cleaned up, and then we can assemble it, because all looks fine, which is great news. So this has all been cleaned out. I'm very happy to say that there's no issues with any of these bearings. They're all very, very good. It's in really good condition, I must say. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the clutch housing off and see what the state of the clutch is here. Looks like a new clutch to me. So that figures the incorrect bolts that were stuck on here on the housing, because this clutch has been replaced. Well, I think this is a brand new clutch. I don't think this was ever used. Right. Seem to just have a pile of oil there, and it looks like it could be coming from here. So I want to just take that off and see if that's where the issue is coming from. So I mean, that is definitely quite wet. Alright, the next problem I've found is a stripped bolt here. And this is one of the reasons why there's so much oil all over the base. So I'm not sure what's happened inside here, but whatever it is not good. Fingers crossed nothing snaps off. Even you find this. Looks like somebody's welded the casing. What's going on there? Ah, look at that, that's cracked. Okay, this is where the problems start, like really seriously. We've got epoxy here. Whoever's put this sump back on again has used epoxy instead of gasket sealant. So I don't know what it's going to take to break this off. This has got to come off. and I don't know what damage is going to get done trying to get it off, so I'm going to try and prise it with guide it around with heat and screwdrivers and stuff. Unfortunately, I'm going to need both hands, so sorry folks, this is where the show ends. All right, welcome to the yeah, this is pretty not good. What is that? Wow. I mean, I totally understand when you've got a bike that's at an age where you've got a little oil leak here and you've got a little problem there. You're not in the business of stripping the whole thing down, pulling the chassis off and doing all of that kind of stuff. I get that. I get that. You always hope when you do a restoration that you don't find these things, that everything is just hunky-dory, but that's a pipe dream. I mean, that's what these things are about. They're restorations. They're not always going to go easy, and that's fine. This is part of the challenge. And cleaning my floor with all the oil that's come off. That's better. It's been compressed through there. So I think it's aluminium. We'll have to do a little test weld on the MIG, see if we can get that a piece welded on there. Okay, we have the leftover pieces, which is good news. So I'm going to try and fix this. Okay, the epoxy's cleaned off. I can get it closer, although I have to clamp it real hard. And I'm going to root groove a recess in for the aluminium weld, and we'll have a go and see if we can fix this. Okay, that's compressed in enough, so I'll get some weld on that, and let's see how we go. Few tiny little low spots here, which I'm not going to risk welding anymore, because the more I sand to level this off, because I can't fit it onto the you can see the small milling machine, it won't fit on, so I've really got to be careful. So I'll probably put on a block of sandpaper and just flat that right down, flat this whole thing down, take this off and give this a good. But yeah, that's worked really well. I'm happy with that. The side's a bit rough. We'll try and drill that out, clean it off. All right, we're getting there. That's good. Yeah, the mystery of the plastic pipe. It was in there in the sludge, and the only place I could see where it would fit would be in there, and it fits rather nicely, but unfortunately that doesn't go in there. We're going to order the filter, and then we can get this part of the job ready to install. But yeah. One of the ways I check for leaking valves, I'm sure there are other ways of doing it, but what I use is petrol. Petrol is a very thin substance, and it'll get in just about anywhere. If there's a leak or a valve that's not seated correctly, then we know there's probably some damage there. Have a look and see. This inlet valve is dry. Now this is the left side bank, which is quite oily, and I'm going to hazard a guess that this one will have some problems there. I think this one will probably leak. You can see the fuel in there sitting on the valve. So I don't know if you can see, but that's coming through. Not a lot, but it is leaking. So the valve is not damaged, but we're going to have to seat that. If you want to have a go doing your valve seats, you know, by all means, go for it. It's not that traumatic a thing to do, and it's quite easy to learn. You've got a fine grade and a coarse grade. They speak for themselves, really. You can do it in two ways. You can get Holtz produce this pack. You stick the sucker end onto the back of the valve while it's in position, and you make a fire. Basically, you just move your hands back and forth. So you lay the seat in. I was taught when I was a boy on our farm in Africa, especially running with diesel Perkins engines on tractors, we put the paste in and then put a drill on the other end, a variable drill, and just run it that way. Seems to be just as good. So I'm going to do that. Cleaning up nicely. The seat is still as grubby as all, but it is starting to come through now. Well, after a bit of work, I've got this head looking good again, and you can see the valves are now seated and they're cleaned. The chamber is cleaned. So we should have a good valve head. However, this is a restoration, and we have this issue. Now, if this were up to me, I would replace the head. But budget is a massive concern in this regard. Also, the client would like to keep as much of the original bike as possible. There's great memories for him as a child. It won't make any difference to the running of the motorcycle. I think the valves are now seated correctly. This will work properly, and shouldn't be any issues as far as that's concerned. But it is an aesthetic problem which only the client can decide upon. I can advise him. I'd say it would run perfectly, but as a restoration that might be a bit of a shame to look at. But again, up to the client. This one's been grit blasted with soft aggregate, so it doesn't spark erode the surface, but it just cleans it. And this one is yet to be cleaned. That's better. We're getting all the paint off today, off the frames, onto the wheels. The other one is downstairs already. We're going to do the tank, but first, a coffee. Please remember to subscribe. If you like the content, please comment as you feel free. Even though they might have differing opinions, and there are not many of those. Not that I mind, of course, but I found the comments to be very respectful and useful to me. I'm always learning new things. I don't pretend to know anything more than what I know, and so it makes for a nice community, and I'm really enjoying myself doing these restorations for myself and for you.